London-based newspaper, and Rupert Murdoch took over from his father in 1952, and since then has grown into a global media organisation, originally containing TV, movie and publishing assets. Last year we split the company to two, and the Fox business went one way and the NewsCorp business has gone another. And within NewsCorp we've got brands like Dow Jones, the Wall Street Journal, the London Times, the Sun, so a lot of the kind of newspaper heritage, predominantly in the UK, North America and Australia. We've also got new digital businesses, so Amplify is a big education startup that we're investing in internally at the moment, and we're also a major shareholder in REA, which is Real Estate Australia, the number one sort of real estate portal down there. So we've got quite a mixed global portfolio, which keeps us busy.
Wonderful, thank you. Adam.
Great, so my name is Adam Evans. I'm the CTO and co-founder of RelateIQ. Our vision as a company was really to kind of rebuild what we think about relationship management. Actually, it goes along with the theme of this talk, from transitioning from management to intelligence, rebuilding relationship management kind of from the ground up with an automatic approach, connecting lots of data and kind of data products and algorithms layered on top of that, trying to automate and eliminate a lot of kind of the cumbersome work that folks do and let them be just more productive in terms of working with actually building and fostering professional relationships.
Great, thank you, Adam. So starting with you, Paul. So I've heard of NewsCorp, all of you guys have. It's obviously a ginormous organization. I didn't realize all the different businesses that they were involved with, so news, media, education across the board, as Paul was describing. So as a very large sort of owner of all these brands, how do you think about data is the first part of the question. And secondarily, give us one or more examples where your investment in data has actually yielded really good returns, either tangible or intangible returns.
Sure. So I think as our business has moved from becoming a purely physical business where we're shipping paper across the country to be delivered to your door or delivered to the newsstand, towards a model where a lot of our business is digital now. If you take the Wall Street Journal as one of the examples there, where we've got a much more direct relationship with the customer across all of the platforms that we serve them on, including print. We've started to think about data much more strategically, and that journey began probably about 4 years ago, where we started to hire talent in this space to first of all make sure those relationships with our customers are maintained, that we are looking after the data properly around those customer relationships, that we're leveraging that internally and treating it strategically, i.e. not giving it away to third-party advertising networks and other things like that. So over the last 4 years, we've been on a journey where we've been collecting and managing in a secure way the data around our consumers and what they're consuming on each of our products. And I'd say over the last 18 months or so, we've been using that much more strategically to understand, for example, our business now is a 24/7 real-time business. It used to be a daily cycle that we operated around. So how do we instrument that data for executives, for the newsrooms, for the journalists, so they can make better decisions in the content they're publishing and what time they're publishing it and where to. We're also using it in a predictive way. We've got great relationships with RelateIQ and other companies like Palantir to build out models where we can predict who will convert into being a subscriber for one of our brands or products. We can predict when someone will churn, what the behavior looks like pretty accurately, and then we try and design our products to kind of attract and retain more customers and lose fewer. So we're using data behind the scenes there. And I'd say the final thing we've been doing over the last 18 months, so first-party data and privacy and security around that is something we take very, very seriously. And we've started to sever our relationships with some of the third-party networks to create a global private exchange across our brands. So if you're an advertiser and you want to reach business users in Australia, the US, the UK, and bits of Europe and Asia, then we can actually target those users through specific advertising, regardless of the brand, but based on the customer segment. And we've successfully driven a strong business out of that.
Super, thank you. So over to you, Adam. Why did you, RelateIQ, as you know, is a pretty hot company right now. How did it come about? What was the original vision for RelateIQ?
Original vision. I think there's a lot of reasons people start companies and see opportunities. I think one of the things that is kind of near to our heart is a vision about what it means to be a successful data product. And we think about a successful data product as being something that not only focuses on automation, but also augmentation of folks. And so this is kind of a core, I guess, principle when we think about building our company and our product. And let me kind of speak about that. So on the automation standpoint, this is about reduction of cumbersome things, just kind of dumb labor, data entry. We actually have a mantra about like the no manual data entry is what we say. So if you're familiar with a lot of customer relationship management software, there's a lot of data entry that goes along. It's kind of, whether it's a database or a spreadsheet, you do things that you kind of have to come in and update. So we want to automate as much as possible with that, and do that by joining in lots of data, building kind of clever tools on top of it, everything from cleaning up contact information to filling in statuses and things like that in the spreadsheet. And then the augmentation standpoint, we have a vision of really being kind of in the right place at the right time with information. So using data and kind of intelligence behind that to help alter somebody's behavior. So this isn't really a cost reduction, this is a productivity boost. And so examples of that would be, we have a product that suggests follow-ups. So if somebody emails me and say, hey, Adam, we want to have coffee next week, and I forget to respond to that, we actually detect that I should respond, that the person's not a spammer and all these kinds of things, and suggest it to the person. Being in kind of the right place at the right time, we have we've really gone in a direction of helping out in the context of email. When I'm receiving an email, I'm reading it, I have kind of my entire team in context of the process I'm running. Who knows who kind of write when I'm reading an email. Maybe when I'm composing, there's tools as well. So we think about, our vision was to create a company that helps relationship professionals do a better job, and really through the lens of what every successful data product should be in the future, is to this idea of automating and also augmenting users in the process.
So what you're describing, is it fundamentally how you're thinking about the word intelligence or relationship intelligence? Yeah,
so I mean, we think, I guess management in our mind is to yesterday. And the idea of intelligence is about today, or even tomorrow. But it's about actionable information right now, what I'm going to kind of alter my behavior. That's smart, that's intelligent. Management tends to be a little bit more about, let's just kind of track what's happening, look at the rearview mirror, get our spreadsheets, and you can use it over time to show trends, but it's not really at the end user level. It's not very personal. It's not like I'm walking out of a meeting and I can do something right then, or right before I pick up the phone, or being able to leverage all the data that might be available to me as part of my team. Who knows who on my team? How well do they know the strength of the relationship? These are all things that are locked up in data that people already have. People already have a lot of this data, like in their Exchange server, these kind of things just sitting there, but they don't know how to get access to it. And so using data, joining it, and building the right interface that kind of intersects at the right time to create that experience, that's what we view as intelligence. And that's what we mean when we say relationship intelligence.
Gotcha. So we're talking a lot about relationships. So how did this relationship begin? Paul,
Yeah, I mean, we're passionate about data and data science, and we met Adam and his co-founder Steve Lockwood in New York probably about 6 months ago, and certainly our data scientists, there was a meeting of mine amongst the talent that Steve and Adam had been able to hire at the technical level, and we were a customer first. We took a number of seats to get going with it, and then since then we've become an investor in the company, just so you all know. But it was one of those tools that I equate, for those of you old enough to remember when Mark Benioff came along and transformed CRM by saying, I built something that's as easy to use as Amazon, and it's in the cloud and it's through a browser. I'd equate what RelateIQ have done sort of 10, 15 years on to that. It really is a kind of step change. And it was the first tool that we've deployed within bits of our enterprise where it grows virally and organically once it's in there. You don't have to convince anyone because it's so automated. You don't have to run a big project to get it deployed. So you authenticate your inbox, your calendar, your phone app, your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile. A lot of these things open up questions for the employee base. But once that's done, you've got a lens which RelateIQ apply over that data that automate the follow-ups that Adam was talking about, that automate customer relationships and understanding who's talking to whom. And for us in a big global dispersed organization, that's really, really powerful. if we lose an account within one of our businesses or lose a customer, we can see the last person to talk to that person 35 days ago was X, and you can go and talk to them and actually change behaviors to optimize the business. And that all happens in a completely automated way and gets stronger the more people you've got operating on it. And it's one of those things that when we started to use it, it poses more organizational questions than technical questions, actually. And the power and the kind of word of mouth success around its deployment has led us to kind of look seriously about how we go further with it. So that's how we met, and that's what we've been doing. But I'd certainly urge you guys to check it out. But it's a step change from our perspective in how you manage those relationships. And I'm not just saying that because we're
Great, Paul. So sitting from where you are, I'm sure you get to see, and this is to you, Paul, see a lot of vendors come through, and a lot of those vendors now, a lot of applications have the tagline that data is sort of an engine behind it. So helping everyone out here, how do you, from where you are, make decisions about what vendor to use, especially for a smaller company? Like you're taking a bet on a smaller company that may go away, honestly. I don't think RelateIQ will, but somebody who's a 10-person company or whatnot. So how do you choose software of this kind?
Yeah, I mean, we actually, there's a couple of things that we apply when we work with enterprise businesses, but there needs to be a strong understanding of the consumer space brought into the enterprise. We don't like pure play enterprise businesses, so we need to know and work with companies who understand the mobile space. So a lot of our workforce just camp out on their iPhones or Android phones. They need to understand that. They need to understand good UX, good design, and automation. They need to understand that this tool may be used for personal purposes as well as work purposes, and it needs to kind of run on any device that maybe we don't control as an organisation. So those are the kind of the rule sets, and I'd say we make much more progress with some of the vibrant, young, up-and-coming startups than the traditional players. There are some exceptions within the traditional players, but we find very little innovation in that pure play enterprise space. They're all very defensive now. Some of them are coming out fighting, but I would, there's a reason we spend as a team a lot of time down here in Silicon Valley. We've got a presence as well as our sort of business footprint. We have an investment presence down here as well, and we keep our ear to the ground religiously to find out about these new companies, and we get much further more quickly working with that class of company.
Great. Moving to the topic of data privacy. So as an investor, I see a lot of applications that ask me to give them my email, OAuth into my calendar or my Dropbox, and I always get a little freaked out when it's just one or two person starting a company, and I'm usually a little hesitant. I might set up a dummy account just to test it, but then the dummy account has no data, so it ends up kind of a losing battle. So I know RelateIQ, email is one of the sources you use. You use tons of sources. So what is sort of RelateIQ's stance on data privacy, and how did you jump over sort of the hurdle of building that trust with your customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So privacy and security in general is something that we obsess about. We go to great lengths in terms of just investing to make sure that we're well secured from a design standpoint. We think about privacy very seriously. I think we think about this, the historic view of privacy is kind of an all or nothing mentality. You're either connected in or you're not connected, and it's behind the firewall and things, and it's very much kind of black and white. It's much easier to think about things that way. Where we believe things are going towards is, and this is really driven from a competitive standpoint, you have a lot of great data. In fact, sharing, there's value in sharing. Having the right information to somebody, in our case, before they make a phone call, they need to know, oh, you're actually talking to this person too. There's value in that. And so the question is how can we think about productization where we can actually retain privacy, but yet let the data sharing happen so that you can extract some of the value. And so, for example, a feature we have is actually called closest connections. And so what this is it's who on my team knows somebody at a particular company, or if I have an individual who knows them very well. And we look at this not only through kind of like a connection standpoint, like a typical social network would look at it, but through the actual strength of the connection, what's the actual nature of how they know each other, how recent have they interacted, what is the content of emails, phone calls, all these kinds of things. But we don't share any of that in the product. In fact, all we surface is, hey, somebody on your team knows them really well. And we're doing this to kind of obfuscate and really let the discovery happen, which lets the two individuals on the team connect in and kind of realize that value. But at the same time, we're thinking about how do we do this in order to protect privacy of the users. And everything that is in our system from day one, we thought opt-in is our model. So users come in and they choose what they want to share and how they want to share it, and it's very kind of user-centric. I think this is you're talking about consumerization mentality, and that's kind of one person at a time kind of groundswell. I think it's really important, even in enterprise and in work group deployments, that you think about maintaining and establishing trust with end users, especially as you talk about leveraging their data and letting them leverage other people's data. That you establish that and you maintain that, and it's something that we think and think about very hard as we build our product.
I would just add to what Adam said. The power of these platforms really get fueled by the more people share data within them and across them. And but equally on the reverse side, with employees, you've got to be incredibly careful, and the opt-in piece is key. And then there need to be the kind of granular controls natively within the platform to start at that base level and ramp up. So I think this is much more, the way I see it is it's more of a cultural journey for us as a company, our employees, how we communicate to them, getting them comfortable to merge their personal space with their professional space. And I think this is one of the very first products that's actually started to do that. But once you do it, you can see the benefits. So I think it's a journey, but you have to have those sort of privacy controls baked in at a native level within the platform. Otherwise, it's a hard thing to start with.
So Paul, if you could expand on that a little bit. I mean, there is sort of the phone that you come into the office with has tons of applications. Your departments and functions are probably making individual decisions on applications and data. And then you have enterprise-wide stuff. How do you balance sort of data access to whom and to what versus data security at sort of the broader, at your level?
Well, I think if you look, there are two bits. There's consumer/customer security and privacy, and we take that incredibly seriously. We like to say we're the best at it, and we spend a lot of time really making sure that our customers understand what they're giving us and how we protect that, and that we won't sell it on and all of those other things. So I think there's that piece, and then the employee piece. Again, that's a journey. As we've moved more into the cloud, that's provoked a debate because it's in the cloud. You don't manage it. Is our stuff still secure? Is it still private? And the answer is generally it's actually more secure and more private than having a team of 3 or 4 people in a back room on premise running it yourself. So we've spent a lot of time with the senior management educating people about this transition and communicating to employees. And I mean, the greatest thing working to our favour as people working within enterprises is that rapid pace within the consumer space is kind of driven this agenda and make people live more comfortable. I think again, tools like RelateIQ that can layer over complex systems, multiple different environments, on-premise, off-premise, stuff that we've got in Australia versus here. I think it's, there's providing those controls are baked into the platform, and we can gently kind of ramp it up. It's something we're pretty comfortable with, but it's, we don't underestimate the cultural challenges and also the communication challenges with staff to make sure they're comfortable.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And last question, and I'll open up to the audience. We talk a lot about technology during this session, and you mentioned starting to talk about sort of culture. Having sat on the operating side, I know I adopt a lot of tools. The next shiny object, I'm like, okay, I'll do a demo, I'll do a pilot, I'll test it. If the price is good, I'll just sort of use it. How do you get people to actually use it? Because I know in the consumer app world, we're super fickle. I'll try something, I don't like it, I just kind of uninstall. Certainly it's harder at the enterprise level, but I still feel like socializing. I know you jumped that hurdle with RelateIQ, given that you have a ton of engagement hooks and the value is very clear. But for just sort of how you're thinking about getting people to actually use stuff in your company, how do you do that?
Well, I mean, it's first of all, the baseline we're starting from isn't high, right? So I think companies operating in the enterprise space have done a really poor job generally of user experience, the apps that you deploy, and everyone's got a mobile app now, but a lot of them are pretty poor experiences still, and the features and functions are still very old school. I think tools like this that automate that process of bringing your data into the environment, automate the process of creating follow-ups for you. I mean, that's pretty basic. RelateIQ allow you to do emails natively within the mobile app, so you're not in a lot of different apps. So the more you can put the user at the heart of this and design around them and automate as much as you can behind the scenes, and you're kind of on to a winner. And I mean, genuinely for us, the thing that piqued our interest in RelateIQ is how quickly it was adopted and how positive employees were. You know, every enterprise has a skeptical bunch that they test these things with, and you know, a lot of people were converted very quickly. And when you go to their offices, engagement is the number one metric that the guys assess. In fact, you know, daily active users and time spent. I mean, it's almost run like a consumer business. So again, that companies that are tuned to that, I think, will succeed.
Terrific. So we're almost out of time, but we've got room for one, maybe two questions really quickly. Anyone in the audience? Oh, we're out of time. Okay, we're out of time, I guess. So thank you.